Hello everybody and welcome to this reading. This is a special reading for the partial new moon solar eclipse taking place today, which is August 11th of 2018. But with all eclipse energy, it is with us for 6 months. So even if you're not listening to this on the 11th, it's an important juncture. And particularly it's important because this is the final eclipse in this 11-year of finding a deeper level of mastery. The 11 in numerology is about becoming the inspirational teacher. It's about finding that inspiration within us that takes us to a new level where we can become an example for each other. And we're all capable of this. We're all capable of being, finding this higher ground from which to stand that is not down in the muck, that's not down in the weeds. We've spent a lot of our lives there. So that's what we're being asked to bring forward in this 2018 11 year. And by that, for those who don't know, 2018, when you add up all the numbers, that's how we get to 11. So a little about this partial solar eclipse. What that means is that the moon and the sun, because it's a new moon, they're right together. They're holding hands. So this is an integration point of the masculine and the feminine energies in a new way. And a little bit of the sun is being covered by the moon. But what's interesting is you can't see a new moon because of its position. And therefore, this is kind of, it's a little harder to tangibly describe this integration. So I'm going to do my best, but understand that the moon's energy is about inner guidance, inner intuition, an inner sense of wellness and grace and calm that is common to every being on this planet. But what kind of gets in our way at times is that very strong, vibrant energy of the sun. And the sun is the masculine energy. It is our passion. It is our drive. It is our ability to make things happen. But it's also the land of the ego. Some call the ego, ego, edging God out. The ego at times, for every one of us, myself most definitely included, the ego can end up ruling your days and you're closed off to the flow, the natural flow of what I mentioned before, well-being, grace, knowing that things do work out for the best for you. These are universal truths. But our ego does try to keep us protected, and by doing that, the ego loves, by its design, to put things into neat little categories and to hold strong boundaries and to go to war when those boundaries are crossed and to judge very quickly. And I can't help it. Everything in my life is interwoven with these readings that I do for you and for my clients, because I am a messenger in this life. I've been drawn to this work, and when I've tried to turn my back on doing intuitive work, things tend to fall apart, and then they come back together when I do this kind of work, such as this reading for you. And so I know this is something that I'm supposed to do. It makes me emotional, so I know that also is why it's on target. Therefore, the things that I experience in my personal life are meant to help with the guidance for these readings and other work that I do in this realm. This past week, I have been involved in my very first time ever of being on a jury for a case. And I don't feel like getting into all the details out of respect for everyone that was involved. But what I do want to bring forward for this reading, it's all applicable, is the fact that the lawyers, both of them, used an interesting term about the prism of life and the prism of looking at a situation. And I happen to have a prism here in my office, and it's beautiful when it's all lit up. And of course, what comes out of a prism, that's interesting, prism, is the rainbow colors, rainbow hues, and they're all beautifully blended as a group. And what I found as an individual juror, in listening fairly to all of the testimony and evidence and everything, is the fact that there are many threads to our experiences on this earth. And this can be a trial in a court, or this can be having a conversation with somebody at your work. This can be a quarrel with a lover. This can be a mother showing love and concern for her son. There are many threads, and there is what I absolutely learned out of this process was gold for me, is to check my judgment at the door every single day that I walked in that courtroom. It was required. And to process within my own knowledge, within my own head each day, and to reflect and be fair in what I was looking at. Again, many threads, and not having anybody to bounce that off from. Jurors may not speak to one another until the case is closed, and you, the lawyers, have rested their case, and you go into the deliberation room. You pick a foreman, and off you go. And even with that, you must follow the letter of the law. There are specific essential elements that must be met in order to say guilty or not guilty. This is like a salted caramel to me, if I could put it that way. It is the sweetness and the bitter, the savory, all at once. It is the term bittersweet, because you might have emotional judgments. You may have projections of what you think might have happened, or you think might have been the motivation for something, the compelling reason for something. You think that people may not have been honest, but they have their own reasons for why they behaved in that way. Fear and concern and worry are powerful emotions. And again, through it all, you check the ego and the judgment at the door. And so the salty sweet that I mentioned is in being able to use structure through the law, through these essential elements. That's what they were called for each of the charges. You must look at them individually and make the determination, and everybody has to be in agreement. That's why deliberations can take a while, because we're all coming from different walks of life on purpose. And so that you work with structure very much, but you also have to keep in mind things like emotions and thought and processing and all of the very, very intangible elements of a case, and make a determination out of that as well. It's a big job, and I took it very seriously, very seriously. And so this idea of structure and boundaries and law and war, conflict with things like emotional state and fear and worry and conflict and things having to do with thoughts and emotions, and then hard physical evidence. That's that like law. It's words that are absolute. And that's what's tricky about this new moon, because it's really a blend of them. Just as with the prism, it is a blend of all of these threads. You can look at them as the colors of the rainbow that are produced as you look through the prism. There is no absolute. One side of that story was not absolutely true. And I would say that we can look at the reason I'm covering this is that with this new moon partial solar eclipse, this is the final one of 5 that we have had this year. And the 5 is about being, just checking, it's about being the freedom-loving adventurer. That epiphany just came through to me. Like the 5 eclipses, this is about coming to a new level of freedom for ourselves. And what I would say after coming out of this is that I was granted a truth for myself. That the truth is really somewhere in the middle. And I have long since felt that, but this for me was that kind of hard evidence that I needed to turn a thought into a belief for Cat Barrel. It was just what I needed to say, it's okay that there is a thread here that lines up, and there is a thread here that lines up, and that you have to look at the whole picture and understand all of the threads, and then weed out the ones that are very clear according to the structure, the law, these essential elements that have been given. There is a role for ego and processing and mind, and there is a role for intuition and being able to sort out, to piece out the threads that apply. And life here on earth is about both. It is about the integration of them. Okay, so, and that's what a new moon partial solar eclipse is, because you can't see the moon, but the moon is the one that's covering up the ego, the sun, a little bit. And so the call here is very much like you are being asked here, as I was all of this week, to check my ego and judgment at the door and come into every day fresh, every situation fresh. And don't forget that the new moon is about making new intentions. And in the end, when I listen to all the threads of the stories being presented, the evidence, all of this, in the end, it had to come down to some very specific things. And we as a group had to decide on those together. But our greatest hope was this was a new beginning, much like this new moon is today for this defendant. That it is the start of a new day. And the whole crux of the case, without getting into details, was kind of a linkage to the past. And being unwilling to let go of the past and wanting to figure out the details of things in the now, but based on things that had occurred. And so I've long since felt with my own experience that when we get really, really, really hooked to the past and trying to be in somebody else's story when our part of that story has ended, this is when it becomes treacherous for us. Remember a reading I did a while ago now, about minding your own shop. What I was gifted out of this experience is the value of simplicity of life, of being present and dealing with what comes across your path in the moment, of being strong in boundaries that are yours to make, but mostly of having your head in your own business, having your head in your own experience, and not trying to stir the pot with other people, because it blows up into something that will never make anything the same between those involved. It changes the game. And so I'm asking myself out of this question, and I invite you to ask yourself, am I minding my own shop? Am I paying attention to what's in my shop and the product mix? Or am I over in somebody else's shop and worried about the fact that they don't get there on time, or their product mix is all off, or they're stealing my idea, or whatever? And I'm using this as an analogy here, obviously. But also the beauty, and I would invite the word abundance and really prosperity that exists for life when you consider a simple life and not getting attached to things in the past that you can't change them. They're done. It's done. And knowing when your interaction with another has ended, and it's been made very clear that it's ended, that is an invitation for you to move on to something that you're ready for. You're ready for something new. You have outgrown that person. That part of life, that chapter is done. And going back to muddling that creates kind of a unsettling stagnation, because it's whipping up old energy that doesn't have energy anymore. There is a reason why people move out of our lives or into our lives. And so in this way, every moment is a new beginning. That surely is my hope for the defendant involved, for all parties involved, actually. So with that, let's just take a look. I'm going to read the Sabian symbol. Remember, this is the last of 5 eclipses in this year. We won't have any more eclipses. Eclipses are always a chance for a really powerful reset, a cleansing out. But the moon is driving something for the sun. For that, it's in Leo, which is ruled by the sun. And Leo has a very strong ego component because it's ruled by the sun. Leo energy is very comfortable being out there. But the moon is driving something here, a new beginning, a new intention, when it comes to how that ego is expressed and the energy behind that. The planet of Mars, which is war, which is conflict, which is pushing ahead to get something done, is currently retrograde, meaning your foot is off the accelerator at the moment. If you are working with these energies, you're not pushing to make something happen, because essentially that is like taking your fist and just pounding it into a brick wall at this point. It's not going to do anything except cause pain and harm to yourself or to whatever you are inflicting the energy at. Keep in mind that Mars is well known as being the warrior planet. It is about war and conflict. And that is too in a pulled back state. And this is happening. Mars tomorrow, the 12th, will be going into the sign of Capricorn. So we're being asked to look at that part of us that is this driving need to achieve something in terms of having our way, in terms of settling conflicts, in terms of being the one deemed right. We're being asked to look at that in our drive towards that achievement, which is what Capricorn is about. Our Sabian symbol for this new moon partial solar eclipse today is Leo 19, a houseboat party. I've had this many times in the past readings. And this, where Leo 19 sits within the Sabian symbol set, keep in mind there are 360 symbols. It sits in this set of symbols that is known about release. And the release happens, the houseboat party, think about that environment. I want you to begin to offer more flow. You're showing up for a party with friends. It doesn't have to be a nighttime party. It could be for brunch together. It could be lunchtime. It could just be a little cruise in the afternoon. But it's a houseboat. The house indication here is about your personal house, which is this body, this brain, this processor that we have, our emotional standpoint. It's about the wholeness of who we are as a house, and we carry ourselves around like a houseboat on a river. We carry ourselves around into our day, and through that, you're going to get rocked some days. I do feel this symbol is calling for this inner sense of grace, this inner sense of knowing when am I stepping onto somebody else's houseboat and making comment about that? Am I paying it all attention to my own houseboat? And knowing that the party reference is about bringing a sense of focus on joy. The focus on a party indicates more than one person involved. It brings a sense of joy to whomever crosses your threshold. And that, I would say, is your energy field. You are walking around in a huge, beautiful sphere of energy. That's your houseboat. And whoever crosses that, and that means interaction with you, that to view that through the eyes of, I wonder what we'll talk about. I wonder what I'll learn. Going through this jury duty process, my eyes are opened as they've never been opened before. Again, to the many threads that come through the prism as you look through it. Some people like yellow, some people like purple. Neither one is right and absolute. It is all of them. And so looking at it, what does this person, how is this person that's crossing the threshold of my energy field, i.e. houseboat, how are they causing me to find that level of grace, that level of being unsettled, that I can find my own balance, that I can find my own steady? Because that's the indication with the houseboat, is current comes along, or a speedboat goes up on the river and causes these waves out of its wake. We all know this is daily, and I would say, moment to moment experience for us. We never know when those waves are going to come along. We surely do know they show up every now and then, and for some of us, quite often. Sometimes we never get out of the wake, it seems. But the houseboat has a stability to it, and is the whole key to it is flow, is allowing yourself to be as nimble and as steady-footed as you can be, while allowing the body to just flow with that bump as it comes along. And understanding there's purpose in it. That person is coming in to show you your way to joy, because how will you choose it to be? Will you be strong and very Mars-like and say, no, I'm going to war on this? War is about rigidity, and there is no give, and there is no prism, and there is no rainbow light at all. It is black and white. That's it. But that's not life on Earth. Life on Earth is a prism view. There are many different shades, many different threads, if you want to look at it that way. And there is no absolute as to which one is in totality truth, because there are different motivations, there are different compelling factors. Emotions of individuals have just as much right to be as anything else. And yet, we have very solid things, like you knowing it's your energy field, your houseboat, and knowing when somebody crosses the line in a way that is a violation. And that's that rub, so to speak, that bittersweet, the salted caramel. It is where we can use that to help us with our steadying, but we can't lose the ability to be slightly elastic in how we choose to see things and respond. So you see, this is kind of a deep message here. But I feel like I want to get into the messages for each of us, because I think the cards, my intuition is telling me that this is the invitation to kind of this hidden factor. Because again, we can't see the moon with this eclipse, but it's covering up some of the sun. So it's very intangible. But there's an invitation with each of the cards and their crystal partners as to what that, to bring a little bit more tangibility to that. And it's this invitation to find this flow, to be that slightly elastic as we stand within our houseboat that is us, our energy field, to find more of that grace, not less. So let's get started here. The first card up is from the Angel Tarot deck by Doreen Virtue. Beautiful. Queen of Earth comes up. All right, so this is Earth energy. This is about things in daily life. This is money and such, our jobs, our daily duties. The Queen of Earth is thoughtful, creative, warm. I really am drawn to that word. Warm and sensible. Make time for those around you. Take a sensible approach. Deal with challenges in a kind and understanding manner. And you have my piece of jade, which is from my water team of my elements, and it's known to me as elder. And all my crystals have some meanings that I received from them when I first held them and kind of had a little conference together. And what came through for you is there is a part of everyone that is an elder. And things are not what they seem. There is a part of everyone that we all have. The elder could be looked at as the higher self. We all have this ability to find grace within us and to look at other people as perhaps they're making a choice to not come from that place. But this card is calling you. The tangibility here with this eclipse is in looking through the eyes of justice. This is in everyday matters. This is the Earth, Queen of Earth. And the Queen brings energy. She is that sort of intuitive, and she really is connected to the moon, versus the King of Earth is more about, significant prosperity and like security in your life. That masculine element that is within all of us. But the moon, remember, is ruling the day with this eclipse, covering up a little bit of that masculine energy of the sun. And so what she's saying is, can you be thoughtful in your response before you let it just go on out? If you show up for a houseboat party, you're going to somebody else's houseboat. Perhaps you're pulling up to their houseboat with yours, and you're about to step off, and are you going to immediately go into a judgment of why would they put those curtains up, and why would they set up their kitchen area like that? And that's not the Queen of Earth. The Queen of Earth energy knows that there are reasons why people do things, and it's not always apparent. My jury duty example has shown me that in spades. You might think one thing one day, and then something else comes up, and it's another thread, it's another color in the prism as you're looking through the prism. Oh, there's the yellow. Oh, today, oh, there's the green. Understand there's all colors, there's all threads, there's all walks of life. So the Queen of Earth here, very simply, is asking what creates more flow in your life and what you can potentially really integrate with this final eclipse of the year is this sense of being kind and understanding, and I really want to use the word compassionate. Being compassionate as you look through your eyes, your houseboat, towards another that is somewhere in your vicinity. They have crossed your path. Understand there are reasons, and guess what? You don't know all of them. But you do know where you stand. You do know what your houseboat is like. You know whether you're rigid or whether you can sort of go with the waves if that person or situation is causing waves for your houseboat. Understand, okay, this is an opportunity for me to bring more understanding, more compassion. And I'm not saying become a doormat. Remember, we're dealing with elder here. This is wise energy. And you have every right to make known what is true for you. But you don't have a right to say what is true for somebody else, just as they would not for you. It's the golden rule. Treat others as you wish to be treated. And I want to go back to that word warm. Treating people warmly. Think about a houseboat party. What if your whole life is actually a houseboat party? What if that is actually what it's about? Is finding joy even when people cross the line? Even when people cause your houseboat, the waves, to come. It's about finding your stability no matter what. And what matters is the state in which you keep your houseboat, i.e. minding your shop, as I said in the intro. It's about where you stand with that. And could you become a glowing example for other people with your warmth and your caring and your sensibility too? You know, if your houseboat gets too rocked, maybe you have to go out and get some stability. Some stabilizer things, I don't know what they're called, to put on your boat. Maybe you have to find a different spot. That's up to you. Put yourself in another spot. Change your location. If you just can't keep going with the waves. But it's about knowing you have the sensibility about you to also be your own wise elder. And to know that life is prosperous for you too. You have lots of options. And sometimes the most caring thing we can do is to leave a situation in which there are too many bumps, too many waves coming in from the wakes of the boats going by, that we can't find our footing. And we need to have our footing in order to welcome people for a houseboat party. And to find joy in life, okay? The second card up is from the Messages from Your Animal Spirit Guides. And this card is the Weasel. Comes up for you. Be silent, pay attention, and simply observe with your eyes, ears, and physical feelings what is happening inside and all around you. This is, like with the first card, this sensibility. And I just want to bring up the jury duty example again. Again, there's always reasons why I personally experience these things. This prior week was not about talking. It was about listening. It was about watching people who took the witness stand. It was about watching the defendant. It was about watching the lawyers and listening. And literally, I felt like a huge funnel taking in all this information and processing that through my own personal experience, my own personal views, my beliefs in life, my emotional response that would come up for certain things. And knowing that in the end, you had to blend that with these structures of essential elements that had to be met in order to say guilty or not guilty. It is the blending of the two. But this card is calling you. Your sun is being covered up a little bit right now by this new moon. You got too much yeah, and not enough being the funnel and just listening. Pay attention to what's going on. Your crystal is from my air team. It's my piece of fuchsite. This is known to me as the crystal cave. And so this is telling me that particularly in terms of your thoughts, what this new moon partial solar eclipse is offering is for you to use the other power of your thoughts, your processor. This is very deep. The crystal cave is that deep recess within us. Just like in jury duty, you have recess. And those are points in which I personally took my job very seriously, and so I would do a lot of inner processing. I didn't talk about it with anybody. That is absolutely not allowed. It is this inner processing. That's what the crystal cave is saying for you, the deepest recesses within you. You have to call yourself into question here. Your own thoughts, your own biases, your own judgments. Because the moon here is calling you to cover up a little bit of that super strong ego that wants to guilty, that wants to, or not guilty. And we do that every day, all day in our lives. It's part of the earth experience. It's part of being grounded here and in our interactions with other people in all of the settings of our lives. It's part of the plan. And so in that, we're making snap judgments all the time. But this new moon in very outgoing Leo, who will have it known, here I am. It's a super strong ego. It is your very exuberance. But the weasel energy is calling you, along with the crystal cave, to, take a breath. Take a breath and just internalize for a minute. And go back and say, do I really know everything that's going on here to really make a decision in this moment? Or even if that's just personal to you, even if it's something you don't have to verbalize, we're making judgments and i.e. decisions about people and situations and work and our own development and our, spouse and kids, and we're doing, that is the vast majority of how we are sifting through our day. But understand, again, life is this prism. There are many threads to everything. And for some reason, I'm getting the imagery here of a spider web for you. And understand that a lot of what you may be experiencing with other people that you kind of want to be like, rah, like that, you know, make a really snap decision, because I keep hearing snapping, making quick decisions. There is value in going into your own crystal cave and saying, but wait a minute, is there some element here that I have experienced myself? And how did I feel in that situation? Because that's the spider web. We're all interconnected in many ways. And even, for instance, though I have never done any of the things that I heard about during jury duty, and that my judgment wanted to go towards to say that's not normal. My view of normal, I can't say that I wouldn't react or feel the same or act the same if I were in those shoes of that person. So though I have different experiences, you've got to consider the whole context. And that's how there's interconnectedness among all of us. And let's think about the fact that we all have levels of fear, worry, anxiety, deep sadness, abandonment, feeling a lack of hope about things. And where's your compassion when that happens to other people? When you say no, when you just close off and you won't hear anymore. You just are not having it. And so the invitation for you here with this eclipse, in order to remember, houseboat party is our symbol. The reason this is coming up, I'm not being judgmental at you here. I'm not trying to put you in a tough space and say, oh, cat. I'm not professing at you that there's something wrong with you. The invitation is for you to find more stability through wavy, wavy waters. When it feels like everybody is just, when are the waves going to stop? I just want to have a party with everybody without them tipping over their wine or dropping their plate of food because here comes another Yahoo up the river causing this huge wake and my home is literally getting rocked. And again, I'm speaking all in, analogy here. Your home is your energy bubble that is you, your energy field. But we get rocked when we get really rigid. And the invitation for you with this final culminating eclipse, which has a Sabian symbol that's about release, is in just picking up more, becoming more of a sponge than a brick wall. Inviting the data to show itself, instead of making a really sharp mental judgment of saying no without going deeper. It's almost like I see myself as a parent. I often would be like, nope. And I do that in other areas of my life all the time. It's a call to go deeper because it will offer you more stability through those wavy times and will invite you to find more grace. That's the stability. Taking in more information. What if there's more to the story here? And by the way, haven't I experienced a thread of that myself? How is that person or situation causing fear, worry, anxiety, a sense of hopelessness? When people feel hopeless, their back is against the wall. There are no options left. And we all get that way on different levels of severity. So can you find the options within yourself as to how you respond, even if it's just energetically to support somebody who you may not even know? Okay. Our final card is from the Major Arcana of the Tarot. I'm using the Rider-Waite deck, which is kind of traditional. And this is a deck that I do talk to or interpret whether the card is upright or not. And I checked this with my dowsing before. I haven't looked at the card, but to be sure I had it in the right position when it's turned over. You have the Temperance card in reverse. I'm going to let you look at this upright. Temperance is about the very mixture of masculine and feminine energy. The invitation for you when it's in reverse is, what's it going to take to turn this over? Because the Temperance card is about finding greater balance between the intuitive, deeper, more compassionate, more forgiving, more nurturing side of who you are with the action side of you. Because the water in this, that the angel has one foot in the water, 1 foot on the earth. That is the biggest part of this card that I always pay attention to. The water being that sort of emotional self. And this mixing, alchemical mixing of the water from one goblet to the other, intermixing. And then we've got the earth there, which is about the masculine element, and we've got a brilliantly lit crown that is at the end of this trail here, off in the distance. And that's when you know you've hit the lottery, when you are blending these two. That's what the two chalices, the water flowing between them. And again, allowing greater flow. That is what's indicated by this card. If it is in reverse, there isn't enough flow happening. There isn't enough of that intuitive, what does my gut tell me here? And am I getting too driven in the rules of the road, so to speak, or the restrictions around all of this? Just as with the jury case, there was all of this input, and that is the feminine energy that was happening there. We were all jurors were in a case of feminine energy, as I described for the other card, a huge funnel, or maybe in the intro, a huge funnel of information just coming in. We were not using masculine energy in that moment. All throughout the week, it was just incoming. Okay, that's feminine energy, receiving. And then personally, you could implement a little of the masculine energy in terms of processing, but you can't get far because you want the rub of those other jurors to come to something that really feels like truth to you. And the truth turns out to be a blend of the two. A little bit of this, a little bit of that. The truth is not completely on this side. It is not totally black. It is not totally white. The truth is in the middle. It is the blend. It is a few different of the threads. That's what we came to as a group. And the call for you is, this is, it's an individual thing too. The call with this eclipse is to find more of that balance by allowing more flow in of the information. Because if this were upright, it would be saying that you got it. You're doing a good job of blending these two. This is temperance. Think about when those of you who cook or bake, tempering eggs when you're putting them into a recipe. And they're going to go into a hot milk, let's say. You're making a custard or something. You have to do tempering of putting a little of the hot milk in and get those eggs whipped up, and then slowly adding more. You can't just go hot to cold. My mother will never forget ruining the traditional oyster stew for our family Christmas Eve, which has been a long-standing tradition, because the oysters, I think it was the oysters, were too cold. It was one or the other. It must have been the oysters were too cold, and then there was this, just they immediately, the milk got curdled, that type of thing. It was either the oysters or the milk. It doesn't matter. It's the whole thing of super cold, super hot. You're looking to blend them. And this is like just tempering. It is not blasting off at somebody, and it's not being a total wallflower either. This eclipse is in Leo. This is about coming to a new sense of who you are when you're blasting yourself out there like the sun. That's the Leo part of you. What is that about? What wants to be tempered when it comes to that? Now, your crystal is my beautiful, I love this piece of amber. It's a heart shape. And amber is a resin out of the earth. Therefore, this is part of my earth team. All right, and this is known to me as open heart, is its name. And in particular, what wanted to come through to you is taking joy in the grit. Because this is an incredibly rough piece, and it has like some dirt in it. And when I held it for that first time, I felt that like cowboys out west, and how they get up every day and they just work so hard. But yet there is a passion to it. The grit is part of the passion. And so finding your way to greater temperance, to turn the upside down temperance into more of the flow, is about not turning a blind eye when life gets hard. When life gets hard, that is a huge opportunity. A huge gift to you. I feel that with going through this jury duty, that was a huge opportunity for both the defendant and the alleged victim. Both of them have such an opportunity here. I felt it when I went through cancer treatment. It was the greatest gift that I had ever been given. And I'm not putting rose-colored glasses on here. This is from a higher self perspective that came through, and that I saw and felt when I was in that courtroom. This is the time for seeing, all right, this is about as low as I want to get. Where am I going to go to from here? Something huge is going to alchemically occur, because that's part of the temperance card too. When it's in the upright position, you know your energy's flowing. You're using the best of your masculine energy, your processing ability, taking what's called inspired action, not pushing. It's inspired action, and knowing, what does my heart feel called to? And what is this situation? This situation makes me feel really badly. So do I want to keep focusing on what makes me feel really badly? Or do I want to say, whoa, wake up. What is it that I do want to go towards? Why do I keep fixating over here? But I feel like the invitation for you, it's big here, this open-heartedness, and seeing the value in the grit, and noticing, when am I choosing to stay in the grit? And is that helping me? Or am I fixated on, there are certain people who really love chaos, and they feel like they're more productive somehow on a subconscious level to chaos in their lives. But that's a personal decision. In terms of your daily life, this is earth energy. This is your work. This is about money. This is about, how you conduct yourself through your daily life. The mechanics of life. Am I choosing to look at my life and process my life in such a way that it is to my liking, or am I using kind of perverse energy, meaning that chaos energy, to spur something that is really pushing the energy in a way that is not a flow. There's no intuitive, there's no feminine energy with that kind of an energy pattern that you're choosing. And seeing the grit when it shows up as my opportunity, okay, what am I getting out of this? How can I, look at this in a whole other way? Because remember, you're in reverse right now. The call is to flip it. So literally, in terms of your things like money, your work, the mechanics of your life, your home, your vehicles, all of that, that's where the focus really is for you. Is and also how you take care of your body is in this bucket too. How can I use what is coming up to help me reset? How can I look at the flip? I literally want you to flip it on its head, because that's going to allow you to become more open-hearted, and it's going to allow you to use the grit of what you've been experiencing in order to create something more, something better in your eyes. I could only hope that for those involved in this trial. There are better days ahead. Energy has been cleared. Energy is done. And it's a new day. And there's value out of the grit of being dragged through a court system with all these strangers looking at you every day for a week and deciding your fate. Wow. Big opportunity. Big opportunity for new beginnings. Okay, so seeing the grit as the very element as to turn it around, flip it. Because when you flip it, that is when you're going to allow more of this integrated temperance, more integrated flow. Right now it feels like you're only just, okay, this is where I'm at, and it's almost like a grist wheel. You're just like, keep going on what's not working. And this must just be how it has to be. Oh no, you're not working with your full set. Remember, 1 foot in the water, 1 foot on the earth. And the promise is that crown in the back. That's where you're headed. That's the path. You travel that when you allow both elements. That inner knowing, that inner sense of grace, that inner... Don't you wake up on certain days and just, like, there's something so good about today? Have you ever had that? And then notice how everybody that you meet, it's just like they bring these gifts of conversation and feelings and examples your way. Oh my gosh, it's such a good feeling, and that's how you know you're in this flow. And then you feel like, oh, I think somebody mentions a book. Inspired action is going on to Amazon or going to your library and getting that book, and that night you're reading certain pages and some perfect epiphany comes to you. That's living life in temperance. Inspired action, not gristmill, not like the dirt swirling around you and just like, I guess this is my lot in life. You know, kind of Eeyore energy. That is just how it is, and that you don't have any control over that. That's not intemperance. That's the reverse. You're working against your natural energies. Okay, everybody. That's it for this week. It is kind of a deep reading, but such an opportunity because of it being the final eclipse of the year. So take advantage of it. Open your heart to it. And see what you feel led to really integrate at this point as the last eclipse in this very important, master teacher kind of a year. There's something big here for you, and it's how you bring yourself. It's Leo. It's how you bring yourself to your world and shine out there. Be an inspiration for you and for others. Bye-bye for now.